On any given night, there are more than 580,000 people in the U.S. who are homeless, according to a January 2020 report by the National Alliance to End Homelessness. About 70% are individuals, while the rest are families with children. African Americans make up 39% of this group, despite only representing 13% of the total U.S. population. Over the last couple of years, experts have speculated that this number has only grown due to the pandemic. A lack of affordable housing, rising prices, and an increase in drug addiction and mental health crises are just some of the factors fueling this nationwide epidemic.
Homelessness was increasing, especially outdoor homelessness, for the last 5 years prior to the pandemic. So the pandemic has absolutely exacerbated the issue of homelessness. We have people who've lost jobs, people who've gotten evicted, just a number of things that have added to the population.
That's Donald Whitehead, Jr., Executive Director of the National Coalition for the Homeless. He says that current public and private systems in place are under-resourced and can't keep up with the growing number of people who need help right now. On top of this, many who are homeless and rely on donations to get by are also seeing a decline in individual contributions.
There is a segment of the population, those who are outdoor homeless, that typically do rely on the kindness of others through panhandling to be able to make it through the night. Many of them will panhandle to be able to buy a room for the night. And so people experiencing homelessness get to panhandling through utter desperation.
So, why is panhandling less effective than before? Whitehead points to several reasons.
We are seeing inflation and prices are higher. So even those that have cash have less cash at this time. There's also the avoidance of contact. People are not out as much. There's not as many people available to give, and those people don't want to come in close contact with people.
Another big factor is that Americans are just carrying around less cash. Last year, a national survey conducted by the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta showed that cash payments made up only 18% of all transactions, down from 25% in 2019. For many people, using a credit or debit card or services like Apple Pay is faster and more convenient. During the pandemic, thousands of businesses also stopped accepting cash for sanitary reasons, or preferred digital payments because of the national coin shortage. This shift away from cash is also affecting charities that rely on in-person giving. You might be familiar with the annual holiday Red Kettle campaign hosted by the Salvation Army. This initiative has been around since 1891 and is the biggest fundraiser of the year for the organization.
In the entire country, every single Salvation Army unit utilizes that red kettle on the street corner or in front of a store to collect donations that would then fund Salvation Army programs throughout the year. Toys at Christmas time, food for people, but many other activities that the Salvation Army does.
That's Major Kevin Stoops, the General Secretary of the Salvation Army Greater New York Division. He says that funding from the public plays a vital role in helping the homeless. In New York City, nearly 1 in every 100 people is homeless.
We have mobile units. These are equipped vans that run throughout the city to do mobile outreach for people that are seen on the street. And we provide them with some basics, really, really practical basic stuff that they would need for just the moment, which would be like socks, shoes, coats, food.
But these programs can be derailed if there isn't enough money to cover basic costs. Last year especially, the pandemic made it difficult to solicit donations.
One of the main reasons is also just the lower number of locations that we're able to put the Red Kettle at. A lot of stores have, especially during the pandemic, a lot of the stores did not want the Red Kettle and the person ringing the bell in front of their store simply because of the safety protocols that they wanted for their store. And with that decrease in the number of kettles in any community, then of course you're going to just see the lower amount of donation, unfortunately.
Stoops says another contributing factor is that less people are carrying cash.
The Salvation Army has definitely seen that drop off. A lot of people approach the kettle and say, "Oh, I don't have any cash with me." On each of the Kettle signs, there's now an opportunity to do Apple Pay or other kinds of online giving methods to do. I will tell you that even though they're available, it's a very small amount of the income that comes because people, boy, they still love that tradition of throwing their money into the bucket and utilizing it that way. But a lot of text to give setups. So most of our signs here in our New York region put a text to give number on the sign itself so people can access the Salvation Army giving platforms that way. And I think that one's more utilized than even the Apple Pay or Google Pay.
Other organizations are also using similar technologies to get around the cash conundrum. You might be familiar with media organizations that allow individuals struggling with homelessness to earn an income by selling newspapers. Washington-based media company StreetSense created a mobile app so that customers looking to support vendors can easily pay through a digital transaction. However, while nonprofits and companies can create these platforms, Whitehead points out that it's not always so easy for homeless individuals to go digital. In order to open a bank account or get a credit card, you need to provide information like a permanent address, salary, and sometimes undergo a credit check.
There's a large portion of the homeless population that is unbanked for many reasons. It may be, past negative contact with a banking institution, or the fact that they just don't have the resources to put in a bank, or they don't have the employment. So all of those things factor in as well and are major barriers to people being able to collect savings, to start to have fees that are not placed upon them when they go to cash a check, for instance. So some banks, the fees are like $7. And $7 to most of middle America means not as much, but $7 to somebody living at the bottom of the economic ladder is quite an expense.
For individuals with a bank account, it's becoming more common these days to see a sign with a Venmo or Cash App username displayed across it. Whitehead says that his organization also has the ability to pay people through these platforms if needed.
We at the National Coalition, we have a program where we provide resources directly to homeless people through our Speakers Bureau. We also have people working with administrations in the federal government doing technical assistance work, and we pay them in a variety of ways. Those that do have banking, we do direct deposit. There are some that have banking options that we give checks, but we also have a number of people who we support who do get their payment directly through Cash App or Venmo or Zelle or some other kind of online platform. So I know that a number of people that are in the homeless population do use those resources.
With prices rising across the country, Whitehead urges that if you're in a position to give back this holiday season, please do.
It is incredibly important that in this time that people take an extra effort to be able to support people who are providing services to people experiencing homelessness. It's an incredibly tough time. We're about to hit winter, and I just hope people will think about, bringing a little extra cash when they are out in the public, support the National Coalition, the Salvation Army, and those people who may be on the street in desperate situations.
And if you don't have cash and there isn't an easy way to donate digitally, gift cards are always another option.
I would recommend that people buy the gift cards, either the loaded gift cards with money on them or other kinds of gift cards that have every restaurant now has a gift card. People who are out there asking for food generally really need food. So if you get a coupon to a restaurant or a Walmart or somewhere else that can help people, I think it's just incredibly important to do that.
You can also give back this holiday season through volunteering. Major Kevin Stoops at the Salvation Army says there's a big need for volunteers to return after the dip in manpower nonprofits saw during the height of the pandemic.
There's quite a few opportunities if people want to volunteer to ring the bell. Contacting any Salvation Army location would be able to access you to that. But I tell you, a lot of people like to volunteer to wrap gifts for children, to put together food boxes for people that would come and pick those up, to maybe even be part of the cooking team that would cook a hot meal on either the Thanksgiving Day or the Christmas Day meal. There's a large amount of opportunities to volunteer. Some of those as well don't even need you to go down to a Salvation Army center, because you could volunteer to collect coats at your workplace and then deliver them or have them picked up. You could do a toy drive at your place of work or your club that you're involved in.
Whether it's sending a Venmo donation or volunteering your time, find a way to give back this holiday season. To find out more about this topic, links to resources, and our guests, Donald Whitehead Jr. and Major Kevin Stoops, visit viewpointsradio.org. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri. I'm Gary Price. Coming up on Viewpoints.
This is really when banks started pushing loan money out the door to get it as quickly as possible into students' hands, because the more they did that, the more Sallie Mae would guarantee them profits using taxpayer money.
The dark side of loans for higher education. Then,
all those things that had been mysterious, we can now read because people deciphered the Rosetta Stone.
How the Rosetta Stone brought a dead language and mysterious culture back to life. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.